What's up, YouTube? It's the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I'm back with my top 25 under 25 list. Coming in at number 25, we have Lonzo Ball. Lonzo in his sophomore season put up some pretty solid numbers for a player who had a reduced role thanks to new acquisitions such as LeBron James and Rajon Rondo, and continued to be an active defender. And I would actually argue a lot more people started to recognize that he is indeed a borderline elite level defender, especially at the guard position. However, Lonzo still struggles significantly in multiple aspects of the game, so much so that I would argue that is a detriment to his team. He's a poor floor spacer, can't finish around the rim consistently, and due to his inability to stay healthy, he was sidelined for a good chunk of the regular season. Hopefully we'll see a bit more play from Lonzo now that he's on a different team with a better role, in my opinion, that will best suit his playing style. But until then, 25 is where I have them ranked. At number 24, we have Justice Winslow, and I have to be honest, very similar to Lonzo, I nearly left him off of this list, largely due to the inconsistencies early on the season, as well as his inability to stay on the floor due to injuries. However, towards the tail end of the year, he surprised many people as he took on a different role as a more ball dominant player and almost played like this point forward type of a role in which he excelled at. Really solid facilitator, became a better three-point shooter towards the tail end of the year, and is a versatile defender. Coming in at number 23, we have SABONIS, who came off the bench for the Indiana Pacers and produced rather impressively, averaging nearly 14 points and 9 rebounds within the near 25 minutes of action that he received on a night-to-night basis. Obviously, Sabonis isn't that great of a defender, nor is he that versatile when it comes to scoring, as he can't really space out the floor to the three-point line. However, having someone at the age of 22 going on 23 that is versatile to score in multiple aspects inside of the three-point line is very, very impressive, and I'm happy for him because his rookie season in OKC, I was really concerned because he was being misutilized. Coming in at number 22, we have Jaylen Brown, who struggled early on during the regular season, but I'm giving him some slack because I think a lot of that had to do with politics behind the scenes with Gordon Hayward and the front office and the coaching. However, towards the tail end of the season, when Jaylen Brown received a more defined role and started to get more minutes, you start to see the productivity increase pretty significantly, especially when it comes to his three-point shooting. But even with Brown struggling, it's undeniable that he is still a solid, well-rounded player. He's a good finisher around the rim, can attack the basket, solid three-point shooter, especially when he gets it going, and he is a very versatile defender when he gives effort on that side of the ball. Again, because of these struggles early on during the regular season, it's hard for me to put him any higher than 20, but I still believe this is a good representation of his efforts. Coming in at number 21, we have John Collins, who nearly averaged 20 and 10 for the Atlanta Hawks this season and was a very impressive rebounder, especially on the offensive boards. He started to stretch out his game to the three-point line, which is also very impressive as well, and he is a great complementary piece to Trae Young for the near future. The only reason why I have John Collins so low is due to his inability to score in a myriad of ways outside of just open three-point shots and attacking the basket, but more importantly, defensively, John Collins could definitely be a better rim protector, which is something that I hope he continues to develop in. Coming in at number 20, we have Kyle Kuzma, and yes, even as a Laker fan, I start to acknowledge that Kuzma is a bit overrated by a lot of people, especially the hot takes that I see on Twitter. Nevertheless though, Kuzma is a scorer. He can do it in a plethora of different ways, attacking the basket, shooting threes, and even creating his own shot on the dribble drive, which is rather impressive for someone his age, or at least with the lack of experience that he has. Now, when it comes to the negatives, Kuzma could easily be a better defender, and consistent score is something that we hope to see from Kuzma this year, because in his rookie season we did see a bit more consistency from behind the arc. Up next, we have Aaron Gordon, who last year was a starting forward for a playoff team in the Orlando Magic, and his contributions were definitely needed, averaging 16 points, 7 rebounds, and nearly 4 assists. The only problem that I have with Aaron Gordon is that he doesn't necessarily excel in really any aspect of basketball. He's a solid defender, and I think he should get a bit more respect on that side of the floor, and obviously he is an exceptional athlete. However, He's not really the greatest shot creator. He's not really that great of a rebounder either, but still a contributor on a playoff team. And again, not too many players on this list can claim they were able to do the same. Coming in at number 18, we have Jaren Jackson Jr. And I have to admit, I was torn on where I was going to put Triple J. His rookie season was outstanding. It blew my expectations right out the water. Defensively, he was stupendous. His lateral quickness was almost unheard of for someone his age and experience. And also, he was able to hit the three ball, which is very impressive as well, and something that you want to see from a flex forward like Triple J. Coming in at number 17, we have Myles Turner, who was a defensive savant this year for the Indiana Pacers, was able to space out the floor for them as well, and was a solid rim runner for this team also. Obviously, offensively, he isn't the most well-rounded player. However, he has added a bit more offensive moves to his games. Nevertheless, though, a very well-rounded player, was able to contribute to a playoff team and didn't allow that defense to crumble when Victor Oladipo was out. So, got to give a lot of credit to Myles Turner and what he was able to provide to this team. Hopefully, moving forward, he becomes a bit more of a bigger role on the offensive end, but nevertheless, though, a really solid defender from Myles Turner. Now, coming at number 16, we have Lauri Markkanen, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you all. From Myles Turner at 17 all the way up to the number 11 spot was the hardest decisions that I've made on this channel in a very long time. Lauri Markkanen, offensively, he is so good. Like, it's almost ridiculous how well-rounded of a scorer he is. He can attack the basket, post up, space the floor, mid-range jumpers, elbows, can create his own shot. It's ridiculous, and he does it very, very efficiently as well. But then on the defensive end, he's not that much of a contributor, and also he didn't play that many games last year, so that was a huge reason why I thought about putting him so low on this list. But if he had played more games, I think the Bulls would have won more games, and he possibly would have been a bit higher. Coming in at number 15, we have Trae Young, who I wanted to put higher, but how slow of a start he had to his rookie campaign was so undeniable. Defensively, also, he is horrific. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Nevertheless, though, when he got it going, Trae Young, man, he was a great passer. I love to see him operating the pick and roll, very patient. It seems as if he has way more years underneath his belt than he actually does, and he's a great scorer from practically anywhere on the floor. Even attacking the basket, he's way better than I think many people anticipated, especially towards the tail end of the year. Up next, we have Jamal Murray, who is the definition of inconsistency. But when Jamal Murray is on, he is a solid, consistent scorer from anywhere on the floor. Not the greatest defender, but he can give you some effort on the defensive end as well, and was the second best player on one of the best teams during the regular season record-wise, and also was the second best player on a team that could have made it all the way to the conference finals. Up next at number 13, we have Brandon Ingram, who also is very inconsistent, isn't the greatest three-point shooter, and even struggles from the free throw line. However, the versatility that Brandon Ingram brings to the table is almost unmatched to any other player on this list. Brandon Ingram is a solid ball handler. He can attack the basket, penetrate through the lane, and while LeBron was off of the floor, he actually was a more consistent contributor to the offense, especially shooting around the mid-range area. Borderline elite level defender on certain nights, and the level of versatility allows him to switch on multiple players. After that, at number 12, we have Jayson Tatum. Very similar to the last two selections, inconsistency just screams out when it comes to Tatum. An up and down year for him. Very similar to Brown, though. You can make the argument that a lot of the politics behind the scenes with Gordon Hayward in the role that he received, but nevertheless, one of the more versatile scorers on this list. And when he was given the opportunity last year, he did shine in multiple moments. So had to give him that number 12 spot. Coming in at number 11, we have De'Aaron Fox, and I felt comfortable giving De'Aaron Fox this positioning on this list, largely due to the amount of success that we saw from the Sacramento Kings. Fox had what many people would label as a breakout season, averaging 17 points, being a solid facilitator, extremely athletic, attacking the basket, and being more active. And again, just led a Sacramento Kings team above expectations, so you got to give him respect. Now we're in the top 10, and number 10 we have Julius Randle, who had a monstrous season coming off the bench for the Pelicans. I think the numbers alone speak for themselves. Unfortunately, a lot of those numbers didn't produce wins, but you can make an argument that if Anthony Davis was available, then the Pelicans might have seen a bit more success. But for the role that Julius Randle received and the amount of minutes that he received as well, he took advantage of all of them and had a very, very good season for someone who again was coming off of the bench. Up next, we have Zach LaVine, and despite the fact that he was on a losing team and he missed a handful of games, and also he's not that great of a defensive contributor, the level of scoring that we saw from LaVine last year is undeniable. Nearly 24 point per game score while giving you some pretty impressive shooting splits, especially from behind the arc, shooting 37% from deep on 5 attempts, and also recorded 4.5 assists and nearly 5 rebounds. Up next, we have Luka Doncic, and he could potentially be higher on this list. However, Luka started to get exposed towards the tail end of the year when the talent was stripped away from him, and you'll clearly see moving forward how other players reacted to the lack of talent on their roster. Nevertheless though, Luka had a great rookie season. It's so undeniable the type of impact that he had on that Dallas Mavericks team in all categories: points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, level of efficiency, shot creation, everything. He was a really, really well-rounded player, one of the best rookie campaigns that we've seen in the past 10 to 15 years, and hopefully he'll continue to build off of that. Up next, we have D'Angelo Russell, and unlike Luka, Russell and his numbers and his impact did not decrease when the talent wasn't around him, because a lot of players were out with the Brooklyn Nets dealing with injuries. However, D'Angelo Russell took it as a challenge and continued to push the Nets into the playoffs. Also, you have to take into consideration that D'Lo was a really, really good scorer, except for attacking the basket. He has to figure out ways to consistently draw fouls because his free throw rate was atrocious. But in the mid-range area, top of the key, creating through the pick and roll, it doesn't matter what he was doing. Last year, there were some nights where he was just unstoppable, despite the fact that he may have only been the only real true scoring option for his team. And I would actually argue for a huge chunk of the regular season last year, while Karis LeVert was out, D'Lo was really the only player who could create his own shots, and everyone else was just complementary pieces. Up next, we have Ben Simmons at number 6. And even though to a lot of people, including myself, Simmons was a disappointment, he's still really, really good. Defensively, he's playing at a near elite level. He's a great rebounder for his position, even a really good rebounder for his size. Obviously a great passer, and I would go as far as saying he's the second best passer on this list behind only LONZO. And then when it comes to just scoring, attacking the basket, which is what he does best. But obviously where he struggled the most was scoring anywhere outside of the restricted area, which is something that you would like to see him improve on. But until then, he is still one of the top 10 to 5 young players in the NBA. Coming up next, we have Donovan Mitchell, who took on a scoring role for a Utah Jazz team who desperately needed it, and has continued to be a very prominent and necessary aspect to this team's success, while they've also made some postseason appearances, including last year as well. Now, Mitchell did struggle early on in the year, but when he turned it around, he was amazing. So much so that we're talking about very impressive shooting splits, 40% from behind the arc, while being a 25 to 26 point per game scorer. And also Mitchell this year took upon being the primary ball handler and playing some point guard as well, and being the facilitator for this Utah Jazz team, something that again they desperately needed. And also defensively, he's a solid contributor as well. I don't understand why people don't give Mitchell his credit on the defensive end where it's due. Coming in number 4, we had Devin Booker, and this was tough for me because it was some conversations between Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell in the Discord, and even with me internally. When it comes to Booker, the reason why I personally have him over Mitchell has a lot to do with his playmaking abilities. And even though, yes, the numbers that he records could be attributed to the lack of talent around him in Phoenix, I would argue if he played with a team very similar to Utah that desperately needs some type of scoring output, he would put up very similar numbers, just like Mitchell puts up with Utah. Coming at number 3, we have KARL-ANTHONY Towns. Again, even though on the losing team, the talent is undeniable. Towns is, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say Towns is the most versatile scorer on this list. Threes, elbow jumpers, post-ups, attacking the basket, it doesn't matter. Towns is just so efficient when it comes to scoring. It's undeniable. Great rebounder, great athlete, runs up and down the floor, could be a bit better of a passer, but I think a solid passer for his position as well. The only problem with Towns that I see consistently is his effort on the defensive end, but even then, it's not so bad that I would argue that he's a liability or he just gives egregious effort on that side of the floor. Then coming at number 2, we have Nikola Jokic, who, very similar to Towns, is a very versatile scorer. Wasn't the greatest three-point shooting season for him, so there's a bit of a knock. And also defensively, he could give a little bit more effort, but I still think he's in the same ballpark as Towns. But the obvious biggest reason was the passing and also the winning. And then at number 1, undeniably, we have Giannis, MVP recipient, finished top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year, put on a great show for everyone to see night in and night out, and had one of the greatest seasons that we have seen from someone who was under the age of 25 in the past 2 decades. So yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But with all that being said, people, please let me know what you think about my list in the comment section below. Let me know what your lists are in the comment section below as well. And until next time, I will see you all later. Peace.